The air hummed with a quiet intensity, a subtle vibration I hadn't consciously registered until now. It wasn't an auditory thing, not precisely, but more a feeling of resonance. A gentle tug, like standing near a powerful magnet, yet entirely without discomfort. I leaned back, allowing myself to simply be with this realization that I, right here, right now, was radiating a field of energy, a magnetic field. To be precise, that was 100 times stronger than my brain's electrical activity. It was a notion so outlandish, so profoundly counterintuitive, that for a moment, I questioned my own sanity. But the more I considered it, the more it began to feel undeniably true. This wasn't some esoteric concept plucked from a science fiction novel. This was, according to a growing body of scientific research, a fundamental aspect of human consciousness and our relationship to the very fabric of reality. The research, spearheaded by organizations like the HeartMath Institute, has meticulously documented this phenomenon over decades. They've demonstrated, through sophisticated instrumentation, that our emotions, the very things we often try to suppress or deny, are not just internal experiences, but active generators of measurable changes in the electromagnetic fields surrounding our bodies. These fields, often referred to as Bow fields, extend outwards, detectable up to 3 feet in every direction, influencing not just our own physiology, but potentially the energy patterns of everyone within their reach. It's a perspective that completely flips the script on our understanding of self and other, suggesting we're less isolated individuals and more nodes within a vast, interconnected network of energy. I'd stumbled upon this research almost by accident, initially drawn to the intriguing concept of heart rate variability, HRV, and its potential for stress reduction. HRV, the fluctuation in the time intervals between heartbeats, is a key indicator of nervous system regulation. The HeartMath Institute discovered that individuals trained to synchronize their heart rhythms with specific emotional states, particularly states of appreciation and compassion, exhibited significantly higher HRV and demonstrable reductions in stress biomarkers. But the implications of their findings went far beyond simple relaxation techniques. They revealed that emotions weren't just affecting our bodies, they were actively shaping the electromagnetic fields that govern our biological processes. The science is complex, involving principles of quantum physics, neuroscience, and electromagnetic biology. It begins with the astonishing fact that every cell in our bodies is surrounded by an electric field, a constant stream of electromagnetic energy. The intensity of this field, approximately 10 million volts per meter, is equivalent to the electrical activity found in a lightning bolt. This isn't some theoretical abstraction, it's the fundamental nature of life itself. Our hearts, in particular, are incredibly powerful electromagnetic generators, rhythmically pulsing with energy that dwarfs the electrical activity of the brain. When scientists measure the magnetic field produced by the heart, they consistently find it to be 60 to 100 times stronger than the brain's electrical activity. This rhythmic energy isn't just fueling our circulation, it's generating a powerful, outward-reaching electromagnetic field. But here's where it gets truly remarkable: the patterns within this field aren't random. They change in response to our emotional states. When we experience coherent emotions, feelings of appreciation, gratitude, joy, compassion, or genuine love, our heart rhythms become remarkably ordered, creating smooth, sine wave-like patterns. These coherent rhythms optimize the efficiency of our entire cardiovascular system, reducing stress, improving blood flow, and enhancing overall well-being. Conversely, when we experience stress, frustration, or anxiety, our heart rhythms become chaotic and erratic, disrupting the flow of energy and creating a field of disorganization. This isn't just a correlation, the research suggests a causal link. By consciously regulating our emotional states, we can influence the electromagnetic field around us, shifting the pattern from chaotic to coherent. It's a subtle, almost imperceptible process, but its potential impact is profound. Imagine walking into a room and immediately sensing that something feels off, a subtle dissonance that you can't quite articulate. Or consider those moments when you're around someone who just seems to radiate calm and positivity, making you feel more peaceful simply by being in their presence. Some interpretations of this research suggest that what you might be experiencing is this electromagnetic communication between bow fields, a silent, energetic exchange that transcends words and conscious awareness. The scientific community is still grappling with the full implications of this research, and it's fair to say that it challenges some deeply held assumptions about the nature of reality. The observer effect, a cornerstone of quantum physics, provides a framework for understanding this phenomenon. In the quantum world, the act of observation itself can influence the behavior of subatomic particles. When scientists observe a quantum system, it behaves differently than when it remains unobserved. This has led to fascinating questions about the role of consciousness in shaping physical reality. Could our emotional states, our conscious intentions, be similarly influencing the world around us at a fundamental level? The concept of eptic coupling, developed by researchers at the HeartMath Institute, lends further credence to this idea. This phenomenon demonstrates that the brain's electrical field can affect the firing patterns of neurons, creating a form of wireless communication between brain cells. It suggests that the electromagnetic field generated by our thoughts and emotions might create feedback loops that influence our ongoing mental and emotional states, a self-regulating system orchestrated by the intricate dance of energy. But the implications extend far beyond individual brain activity. Researchers have begun to explore whether there might be parallels between the observer effect and the way our emotional states seem to influence our experience of reality. Consider how your mood can completely transform your perception of the same situation. A challenging conversation might feel overwhelming when you're stressed, but manageable when you're in a state of emotional coherence. The external circumstances haven't changed, but your internal electromagnetic signature has, and with it, your entire experience of the moment. The potential implications for human collective behavior are equally intriguing. Studies have documented correlations between global emotional events and changes in the Earth's electromagnetic field. While the causal relationships, if any, remain unclear, this research opens up profound questions about the nature of individual consciousness and its relationship to the broader fabric of reality. Consider what happens during those rare moments when you feel deeply connected to another person, a sense of effortless understanding, a feeling of shared experience that transcends words. Could this be, in part, due to a form of electromagnetic resonance between both fields? The research doesn't suggest we can simply will reality to change. It's not about wishful thinking or positive affirmations. Instead, it offers a powerful new perspective on self-regulation and the profound interconnectedness of all things. It suggests that by cultivating coherent emotional states through practices like mindfulness, gratitude, compassion, and focused intention, we can influence the electromagnetic fields surrounding us, creating a ripple effect that extends outwards, impacting not only our own well-being but potentially the energy patterns of those around us. As I sit with this realization that I am, in essence, a radiating energy field, a sense of humility washes over me. It's a humbling reminder that we are not isolated individuals, but nodes within a vast, interconnected network of energy. The implications are staggering, challenging our traditional notions of self-other and the very nature of reality. The research isn't definitive, and it's undoubtedly complex. But the fundamental question remains if our emotions are constantly creating measurable changes in the electromagnetic fields around us. What does this mean for our understanding of personal agency and our ability to shape our experience of reality? Perhaps, ultimately, it means that we have more power than we ever realized. It invites us to consider the possibility that our inner world is not merely a private landscape, but a dynamic force shaping the world around us, one coherent emotion at a time. As I sit with this realization that I am, in essence, a radiating energy field, a sense of humility washes over me. It's a humbling reminder that we are not isolated individuals, but nodes within a vast, interconnected network of energy. The implications are staggering, challenging our traditional notions of self, other, and the very nature of reality. The research isn't definitive, and it's undoubtedly complex, but the fundamental question remains if our emotions are constantly creating measurable changes in the electromagnetic fields around us. What does this mean for our understanding of personal agency and our ability to shape our experience of reality? Perhaps, ultimately, It means that we have more power than we ever realized. It invites us to consider the possibility that our inner world is not merely a private landscape, but a dynamic force shaping the world around us, one coherent emotion at a time. Terms like aura, chi, or prana point toward an understanding of human beings as electromagnetic entities whose well-being depends on the healthy flow and balance of energy through their system. While the language differs, the fundamental recognition remains consistent. We are energetic beings whose inner states create patterns that extend beyond the boundaries of our physical bodies. Modern research is beginning to provide scientific frameworks for understanding these ancient insights. The Bowfield, as it's now called in scientific literature, represents a complex organizing energy field that appears to be involved in the generation, maintenance, and regulation of biological processes. This field encompasses the electromagnetic signatures generated by your heart, brain, and cellular activity, creating a dynamic pattern of energy that's as unique as your fingerprint, yet constantly changing based on your thoughts, emotions, and physiological state. What makes this particularly relevant to your daily life is the growing understanding that you have more influence over your Bowfield than you might imagine through practices that promote what researchers call psychophysiological coherence, the alignment of your heart rhythm, breathing patterns, and emotional state. You can create more ordered and harmonious patterns in your electromagnetic field. This isn't about wishful thinking or positive affirmations, it's about learning to regulate your nervous system in ways that optimize the coherence of your Bowfield. As we prepare to dive deeper into the practical implications of this research, I want you to sit with this idea for a moment. You're not just a collection of thoughts and feelings contained within the boundaries of your skin. You are an electromagnetic being whose inner states create ripples of influence that extend into the space around you. Your emotions are not private experiences, they are energetic signatures that participate in the larger symphony of electromagnetic activity that connects all living systems. In our next section, we'll explore the specific mechanisms through which emotional states appear to influence electromagnetic fields, and we'll examine the growing body of research that suggests these changes might have measurable effects on both individual well-being and social dynamics. We'll also look at practical techniques developed by researchers for consciously influencing your Bowfield through emotional regulation, and we'll consider what this might mean for your understanding of personal agency and your ability to shape your experience of reality. But for now, simply rest in the wonder of this possibility. As you breathe, imagine the invisible field of energy that surrounds your body pulsing gently with the rhythm of your heart, shifting subtly with each thought and feeling. You're participating in one of the most fundamental processes of life itself, the constant dance of electromagnetic energy that connects your inner world to the vast field of consciousness that some say underlies all existence. The research reveals something even more extraordinary about this electromagnetic dance happening within and around your body. Scientists have discovered that the Bowfield operates through what they call biophoton communication, where cells literally communicate with each other using incredibly faint pulses of light. These are not photons you could see with your naked eye, but rather quantum-level emissions that carry information between cellular structures at the speed of light itself. Think about this for a moment right now. As you sit here listening, your cells are having conversations with each other, using light itself as their language. This biophoton activity appears to be involved in everything from cellular repair and regeneration to the coordination of complex biological processes throughout your body. When researchers examine these light emissions under laboratory conditions, they find that the patterns change dramatically based on the emotional and physiological state of the organism being studied. What's particularly fascinating is that these biophotons don't seem to be random emissions. They appear to carry coherent information, almost like biological fiber optic networks running throughout your entire system. Some interpretations of this research suggest that emotions might influence the coherence and intensity of these light-based communications, though the exact mechanisms remain an active area of scientific investigation. Consider how this might relate to those moments when you walk into a room and immediately sense the emotional atmosphere, even before anyone speaks. While we don't fully understand the mechanisms involved, some researchers speculate that variations in biopattern emissions might contribute to the subtle energetic information we unconsciously pick up from our environment and the people around us. As you breathe right now, imagine this invisible symphony of light pulsing through your system, carrying messages between your heart and brain, between your nervous system and your immune cells, between every organ and tissue in your body. This isn't poetry or metaphor. Though it certainly sounds poetic, this is the actual biological reality of how your body maintains its extraordinary complexity and coordination. The implications become even more intriguing when we consider recent discoveries about what scientists call the quantum vacuum, the supposedly empty space between particles. Quantum physics has revealed that this apparent emptiness is actually teeming with activity, filled with virtual particles that pop in and out of existence in time frames so brief they challenge our normal understanding of reality. Some theoretical physicists have proposed that biological systems might interact with these quantum vacuum fluctuations in ways we're only beginning to understand. Where does the boundary exist between the quantum world and the biological world? For decades, scientists assumed that quantum effects were too delicate to survive in the warm, noisy environment of living systems. But recent research has discovered quantum phenomena operating within biological structures, from the way plants harvest light during photosynthesis to the navigation systems used by migratory birds. Your brain itself might be operating as a kind of quantum computer, though this remains highly speculative. Some researchers have proposed that consciousness itself might emerge from quantum processes occurring within the microtubules of neurons, tiny structures that help maintain cellular shape and organization. While this hypothesis remains controversial and unproven, it raises fascinating questions about the relationship between quantum mechanics and human awareness. What we do know with greater certainty is that your emotional states create cascading effects throughout your entire biological system. When you experience stress, for example, your body releases hormones like cortisol that directly influence cellular voltage and electromagnetic activity. These stress hormones can disrupt the normal electrical patterns within your cells, potentially affecting everything from immune function to cognitive performance. Conversely, when you cultivate coherent emotional states, feelings like gratitude, compassion, or deep appreciation, your body releases entirely different biochemical signals. These positive emotional states appear to optimize cellular voltage and enhance the coherence of electromagnetic activity throughout your system. Some research suggests this might even influence genetic expression, though the mechanisms involved remain an active area of investigation. Take a moment to notice what you're feeling right now as we explore these ideas together. Are you experiencing curiosity, wonder, perhaps a touch of skepticism mixed with fascination? Whatever emotions are arising, remember that they're creating real, measurable changes in the electromagnetic patterns flowing through your body at this very moment. This leads us to one of the most practical aspects of biofield research: the development of techniques for consciously influencing your electromagnetic coherence. The HeartMath Institute has pioneered what they call the quick coherence technique, a simple practice that combines focused breathing with intentional emotional states to create more ordered patterns in your heart's rhythm, and by extension, your entire biofield. The technique itself is elegantly simple. You focus your attention on the area around your heart. Imagine your breath flowing in and out of this space, and then activate a genuine feeling of appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. Within minutes, this practice can shift your heart rhythm from chaotic, stress-induced patterns to smooth, coherent waves that optimize your entire cardiovascular system. But the effects extend far beyond your heart. When your heart rhythm becomes coherent, it appears to entrain other systems throughout your body. Your brain waves begin to synchronize with your heart rhythm, your breathing naturally becomes more efficient, and the electromagnetic field generated by your biofield becomes more organized and harmonious. Some interpretations of this research suggest that these coherent electromagnetic patterns might influence not just your own well-being, but also the biofields of people around you. The idea is that whoever has the strongest coherence in a group setting can unconsciously entrain the electromagnetic patterns of others nearby. While this remains a hypothesis rather than established scientific fact, imagine sitting in a meeting with someone who radiates genuine calm and presence. You might notice that your own stress levels decrease simply by being in their vicinity. While multiple factors could explain this phenomenon, including mirror neurons and unconscious behavioral mimicry, electromagnetic field interactions represent another potential mechanism for this kind of emotional contagion. Consider how electromagnetic coherence might influence your relationships with others. As we continue to explore these ideas, it's vital to remember that the research on electromagnetic entrainment becomes particularly intriguing when we consider larger social dynamics. Some studies have examined whether groups of people engaged in synchronized activities, like meditation or focused intention work, begin to show correlated patterns in their individual BOF fields. While the findings remain preliminary and controversial, they raise fascinating questions about collective human consciousness and the possibility of electromagnetic coherence at larger scales. Consider the atmosphere at a live concert, when thousands of people become emotionally synchronized with the music and each other, or think about the palpable tension that can emerge in a crowd during times of conflict or uncertainty. While we typically explain these phenomena through psychology and social dynamics, some researchers speculate that electromagnetic field interactions might contribute to these collective emotional states. And finally, it's vital to consider how electromagnetic coherence might influence larger planetary systems. Some researchers have proposed that human collective consciousness might interact with planetary electromagnetic systems. The Global Coherence Initiative has been monitoring correlations between significant world events and changes in the Earth's electromagnetic patterns. While these correlations don't prove causation, they raise intriguing questions about whether human collective consciousness might interact with planetary electromagnetic systems in ways we don't yet understand. As you contemplate these possibilities, take a breath and consider how this perspective might shift your understanding of your place in the larger web of existence. If your BOF field is constantly interacting with the electromagnetic environment around you, then you're not just passively experiencing reality, you're actively participating in its creation through the quality of your emotional and electromagnetic coherence. This connects to ancient wisdom traditions that have long recognized humans as energetic beings, whose inner states influence the world around them. Practices like meditation, prayer, and contemplative movement have been understood for millennia as ways of cultivating beneficial energy patterns. For instance, have documented measurable changes in electromagnetic brain patterns, heart rhythm coherence, and even genetic expression among experienced practitioners. It's vital to remember that the research on electromagnetic entrainment is still in its early stages, but the findings suggest that contemplative practices might indeed influence your BOF field in beneficial ways. As the Global Coherence Initiative continues to unravel the intricate connections between planetary events and subtle shifts in the Earth's electromagnetic field, a profound question arises: are we, as humans, somehow inextricably linked to this vast energetic system? It's a notion that initially feels almost fantastical, yet the growing body of research and the echoes of ancient wisdom suggest a far more nuanced understanding of our place within the universe. Let's consider this with a gentle, open mind. The initial findings, meticulously documented by the initiative, reveal correlations between significant global events, periods of heightened social unrest, dramatic shifts in weather patterns, or even moments of collective inspiration, and corresponding fluctuations in Earth's electromagnetic field. These aren't definitive proof of causation, of course, but they paint a compelling picture of a system where human consciousness, operating on a large scale, might exert an influence, however subtle, on the very fabric of our planet. Think about a live concert, a stadium packed with thousands of people, all caught up in the rhythm and energy of the music. There's a palpable synchronization, a sense of shared experience that goes beyond mere sound. Or consider the tension that can build in a crowd during a moment of uncertainty, a critical decision hanging in the balance. These phenomena, often explained through the lens of psychology and social dynamics, are prompting researchers to explore whether electromagnetic field interactions might play a more significant role in shaping these collective emotional states. This leads us to an even more speculative, yet fascinating, area of investigation: the potential for human biofields, the constantly fluctuating energy fields surrounding our bodies, to interact with the Earth's own electromagnetic field. Our planet generates a complex tapestry of magnetic activity, from the familiar north-south dipole field guiding compass needles to more subtle electromagnetic resonances pulsing through the atmosphere. The initiative's work suggests that these resonances aren't simply passively emanating from the Earth. They might be dynamically influenced by the collective consciousness of humanity. It's a concept that resonates with ancient wisdom traditions, where humans have long been understood as energetic beings whose inner states profoundly impact the world around them. Practices like meditation, prayer, and contemplative movement have, for millennia, been recognized as ways of cultivating beneficial energy patterns, and modern research is now beginning to provide scientific frameworks for understanding these traditional practices. We're seeing documented changes in electromagnetic brain patterns, heart rhythm coherence, and even genetic expression among experienced practitioners. This isn't about seeking a quick fix or magically altering reality. It's about optimizing our biological systems for greater health, clarity, and emotional resilience. The truly remarkable aspect of this emerging research is the growing recognition that you may have more agency over your electromagnetic patterns than you might initially imagine. It's not about fantastical manipulation, but about cultivating a deeper awareness of your emotional states, your breathing patterns, and your mental focus. Through conscious attention, you can learn to influence the subtle energy fields surrounding your body. This approach extends to every facet of human experience. Consider the implications for relationships when you approach interactions with genuine appreciation or compassion. Some research suggests your biofield radiates patterns that can be unconsciously detected by others, potentially fostering a sense of comfort and openness. Think about cognitive performance when your biofield is chaotic due to stress or emotional turbulence. It becomes significantly harder to think clearly, make sound decisions, or access your creative potential. Conversely, when your biofield is coherent, your entire nervous system operates with greater efficiency, enhancing everything from memory and learning to intuitive insight. But perhaps the most profound implication is the potential for this research to reshape our understanding of healing and well-being. Traditional medicine has always recognized the influence of emotions on physical health, but biofield research offers a potential mechanism for understanding this influence more deeply. It suggests that chronic emotional stress can create persistent disruptions in biofield coherence, eventually manifesting as physical symptoms or disease. Conversely, practices that promote electromagnetic coherence, such as meditation, mindful movement, and spending time in nature, might support the body's natural healing processes. This doesn't mean biofield work can cure serious medical conditions, but rather that optimizing your electromagnetic patterns can complement conventional medical treatment by supporting your overall resilience and recovery capacity. The core of this emerging understanding centers on the concept of a biofield, a dynamic energy field that surrounds every living organism. It's not a static aura, but a constantly fluctuating field influenced by both internal and external factors. It's this field that, according to the initiative's findings, might be interacting with the Earth's electromagnetic field, creating a feedback loop between human consciousness and planetary systems. As we move forward, it's crucial to approach this research with a healthy dose of humility and open-mindedness. The quantum world operates by rules that seem to defy common-sense particles existing in multiple states simultaneously until observed, the phenomenon known as quantum superposition. This challenges our fundamental assumptions about reality. Yet, the growing evidence from biofield research, combined with insights from quantum physics, suggests that our understanding of consciousness and its relationship to the physical world may be profoundly incomplete. Consider the implications of the observer effect in quantum mechanics, the fact that the act of observation fundamentally alters a quantum system. When a quantum system is measured, it transitions from a state of multiple possibilities to a single, definite outcome. This suggests that consciousness, the act of observing or attending to something, plays a special role in shaping reality. The field of quantum biology is now revealing quantum processes within living systems, from the efficiency of photosynthesis to the migratory patterns of birds. Researchers have discovered that specialized proteins within the eyes of migratory birds utilize quantum entanglement, a phenomenon where two particles become correlated in ways that transcend space and time to navigate using the Earth's magnetic field. But beyond these scientific discoveries, it's important to acknowledge the deep, intuitive wisdom embedded in ancient traditions that recognize the interconnectedness of all things. The concept of a vibrational universe, where everything is in constant communication through energy, is not merely a metaphysical notion, it's increasingly supported by scientific evidence. As you move through your day, take a moment to notice the subtle sensations within your body, the rhythm of your breath, the flow of your thoughts, the warmth of your skin. You are, in essence, an electromagnetic being, a complex, dynamic system interacting with the vast, energetic network of the universe. Your biofield is constantly in conversation with the electromagnetic environment around you, influenced by everything from the Earth's magnetic field to the coherence patterns of other living beings in your vicinity. You exist within a vast web of energetic relationships, connecting you to the larger fabric of existence in ways both subtle and profound. As we prepare to delve deeper into the quantum dimensions of consciousness and reality in our next exploration, I want you to rest in the wonder of your own electromagnetic nature. You are not simply a biological machine operating according to purely mechanical principles. You are an energetic being whose thoughts, emotions, and intentions create measurable patterns in the energy field that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical form. Your biofield is constantly in conversation with the electromagnetic environment around you, influenced by everything from the Earth's magnetic field to the coherence patterns of other living beings in your vicinity. You exist within a vast web of energetic relationships that connect you to the larger fabric of existence in ways both subtle and profound. In our next exploration, we'll dive deeper into the quantum mechanical aspects of consciousness and reality. The air around you hums with a potential you might not consciously perceive, a vast, energetic network constantly in motion. It's a breathtaking realization you are not simply a collection of atoms and molecules, bound together by physical forces. Instead, you exist within a profound conversation, a delicate dance with the electromagnetic environment, influenced by everything from the Earth's magnetic field to the subtle coherence patterns of other living beings. You are, in essence, a node within an immense, interconnected web, a participant in a universe where relationships are as fundamental as matter itself. As we move forward, let's delve deeper into the quantum dimensions of consciousness and reality, understanding that your existence is inextricably linked to this energetic landscape. It's a shift in perspective, isn't it? To imagine that consciousness and matter both arise from the same foundational substrate opens up a space for understanding ancient intuitions, the feeling that mind and universe are intimately connected. But let's be clear, this isn't about magically manifesting a new car or relying on positive thinking to solve your problems. Instead, it suggests a more profound and subtle interconnection between awareness and the physical world, the observer effect in quantum mechanics. The simple fact that the act of observing a quantum system fundamentally alters it raises equally compelling questions about the role of consciousness in shaping reality. When a quantum system is measured, it transitions from a state of multiple possibilities, existing in a probabilistic haze, to a single definite outcome. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics propose that consciousness might play a special role in this transition, although most physicists favor explanations that don't require conscious observers. What we can confidently acknowledge is that consciousness appears to have a unique relationship to information. When you observe something, whether it's a quantum measurement or simply noticing the rhythm of your breath, you're extracting information from your environment and integrating it into your ongoing experience. This process of information integration might be more fundamental to the nature of reality than we typically realize. Consider the quantum vacuum, that seemingly empty space between particles. It's anything but empty. At the smallest scales, it's teeming with activity. Virtual particles, fleeting, temporary manifestations of energy, constantly pop into existence and then disappear, creating what physicists call zero-point fluctuations. Some speculative theories propose that consciousness might somehow interact with these vacuum fluctuations, though this remains far from proven and is not accepted by mainstream science. What's particularly intriguing is how these quantum phenomena might relate to the field of consciousness itself. Many contemplative traditions describe awareness as a kind of space or field within which all experiences arise and pass away. This awareness space seems to have qualities remarkably similar to the quantum vacuum, empty, yet full of potential, unchanging yet constantly giving rise to activity, providing the context within which all phenomena manifest. Take a deep breath and notice the space of awareness in which your current experience is occurring. Your thoughts arise within this space, your emotions move through it, your sensations appear and dissolve within it. Yet, the awareness itself remains present and unchanging. Some interpretations suggest this might offer clues about the fundamental nature of consciousness and its relationship to the quantum field that underlies physical reality. Now, let's consider the concept of entanglement, a phenomenon that has captured the imagination of scientists and philosophers alike. When two particles become entangled, measuring one instantly influences the state of the other, regardless of the distance separating them. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance. However, experiments have repeatedly confirmed that entanglement is a real feature of quantum systems. Imagine two coins flipped simultaneously across vast distances. In the classical world, the outcome of each flip is independent. But in the quantum world, entangled particles behave as if they are linked in a way that transcends space and time. When you measure one particle and determine its spin, you instantly know the spin of the other, even if they're light years apart. This doesn't imply that information is traveling faster than light. Instead, it suggests a deeper connection, a fundamental interconnectedness that challenges our conventional notions of space and time. While there's no scientific evidence for quantum entanglement operating in human brains or between human minds, it's perhaps more compelling to consider the experiential sense of connection that sometimes emerges between people during moments of deep empathy, shared meditation, or intimate conversation. These experiences don't involve literal quantum entanglement, but they might offer insights into the interconnected nature of consciousness itself. Consider those rare moments when you feel deeply attuned to another person, when communication seems to flow effortlessly, and understanding emerges without words. Neuroscience can explain much of this through mirror neurons and unconscious behavioral synchronization. However, the subjective experience often feels like something more profound is happening. Some interpretations suggest that these moments reflect a deeper truth about the nature of consciousness, one that resonates with the quantum understanding of reality as fundamentally interconnected. Next, let's examine the concept of complementarity, a core principle of quantum mechanics. It states that particles can exhibit seemingly contradictory properties, like being both waves and particles, depending on how they're observed. It's like looking at the same object through different lenses, revealing different aspects of its reality. This suggests that consciousness itself might operate on similar principles, exhibiting different properties depending on how we direct our attention. When you focus intently on a specific object or thought, consciousness appears concentrated and particular. But when you relax your focus and simply rest in open awareness, consciousness seems to become more spacious and universal. Both experiences are valid, yet they reveal different aspects of what consciousness actually is. This isn't a perfect analogy to quantum complementarity, but it suggests that similar principles might apply to understanding awareness itself. As we sit with these ideas, imagine how this quantum perspective might influence your understanding of meditation and contemplative practice. Traditional meditation instructions often involve learning to observe your thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them, allowing them to arise and pass away naturally within the field of awareness. Some interpretations suggest this practice might cultivate a kind of mental coherence analogous to the coherent states that emerge in certain quantum systems. When quantum systems achieve coherence, individual particles begin to behave as a unified whole, creating phenomena like superconductivity and laser light. While human consciousness doesn't operate according to quantum mechanical principles in a direct sense, some researchers have speculated that states of deep meditation might involve similar kinds of neural coherence, where different brain regions begin to synchronize their activity in beneficial ways. The practice of mindfulness, paying gentle attention to the present moment experience without judgment, might be understood as a kind of conscious observation that influences the quality of your mental states. Just as quantum observation affects the behavior of subatomic particles, mindful observation seems to affect the nature of your thoughts and emotions, often making them less reactive and more workable. This doesn't mean that mindfulness operates through quantum mechanisms, but rather that both processes involve the transformative power of conscious attention. Let's consider the concept of the microtubules within brain cells, tiny structures that help maintain the shape and organization of neurons. Some researchers believe that these microtubules contain arrangements of proteins that might support quantum computations. This isn't a universally accepted theory, but it's fascinating to consider the possibility that these structures could play a role in the emergence of consciousness. Now, let's address the binding problem in neuroscience, the question of how the brain integrates information from different sensory modalities and cognitive processes into a unified experience of consciousness. Take a moment to notice the seamless integration of different elements in your current experience: the sounds, the visual information, the bodily sensations, the thoughts, and the emotions. All of these seemingly disparate streams of information are somehow woven together into a single coherent experience. And finally, let's consider the concept of the microtubules within brain cells, tiny structures that help maintain the shape and organization of neurons. Some researchers believe that these microtubules contain arrangements of proteins that might support quantum computations. This isn't a universally accepted theory, but it's fascinating to consider the possibility that these structures could play a role in the emergence of consciousness. As we prepare to explore the practical implications of these quantum insights for understanding consciousness and contemplative practice, take a moment to appreciate the profound mystery of your own awareness. The fact that you can contemplate these ideas, hold them in consciousness, and reflect on their meaning represents one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the known universe. Consciousness remains perhaps the deepest puzzle in science, and quantum physics might offer important clues for solving it. As we move forward, we'll examine how these quantum perspectives might inform contemplative practices and explore specific techniques that some researchers believe might optimize the coherence of consciousness itself. We'll also look at the growing field of consciousness research and consider what it might reveal about the nature of subjective experience and its relationship to the physical world. But for now, simply rest in the wonder of being a conscious being in a quantum universe. Take a deep breath. You're participating in the ancient dance between awareness and phenomena, between the observer and the observed, between the field of consciousness and the endless possibilities that emerge within it. You are both a product of this quantum reality and a conscious participant in its ongoing unfolding. The intersection of quantum physics and consciousness research has given birth to a fascinating new field of inquiry that explores how the principles discovered at the smallest scales of reality might inform our understanding of the largest questions about mind and experience. The intricate dance between observation and reality, a concept so profoundly explored through the lens of quantum physics, now begins to resonate with a startling depth when considered in the context of consciousness itself. It's a perspective that suggests our awareness isn't simply a byproduct of complex neural activity, but rather an integral participant in the very fabric of existence. As we delve deeper, we're not just exploring theoretical physics, we're inviting a radical reimagining of what it means to be human. Reflecting on the implications of this convergence, the idea that our minds frequently violate the classical assumptions of cause and affect in ways that mirror quantum behavior, unveils a universe far more fluid and interconnected than we might have initially conceived. Consider the seemingly mundane act of making a decision. The order in which you evaluate options can demonstrably influence your final choice, mirroring the way quantum measurements affect the outcome of an experiment. It's as if the act of observing or consciously engaging with a possibility shifts the probabilities themselves. You might simultaneously desire adventure and security, solitude and connection, stability and change, a state of seeming superposition, until the necessity of a decision forces one preference to dominate. This isn't a matter of wishful thinking, it's a recognition of how our awareness actively shapes the reality we experience. It's crucial to understand that this quantum-inspired view of cognition doesn't suggest that our brains contain literal qubits or quantum computers. Instead, it proposes that the dynamics of consciousness can be better understood through quantum mathematical frameworks than through traditional computational models. Some interpretations posit that this framework offers a potential explanation for phenomena like creativity, intuition, and the nonlinear emergence of insights that seem to arise spontaneously from the depths of our minds. Think about your own creative process, the frustrating days spent wrestling with a problem, only to have a solution suddenly appear, as if organized itself within the recesses of your consciousness. It's a compelling metaphor for the quantum leap of understanding. Yet, this perspective isn't without its complexities and controversies. The field of quantum biology has revealed that living systems have evolved sophisticated mechanisms for maintaining quantum coherence, even in the warm, noisy environments of biological systems. This discovery has ignited speculation about whether similar quantum processes might occur within neural tissue, potentially contributing to the emergence of consciousness itself. Microtubules, those structural elements that maintain the shape and organization of neurons, contain arrangements of proteins that some researchers believe might support quantum computations. While this hypothesis remains controversial within the scientific community, the growing recognition that consciousness involves forms of information processing that are remarkably sophisticated and potentially unlike anything achieved by classical computers is undeniable. The binding problem in neuroscience, the enduring challenge of explaining how the brain integrates information from different sensory modalities and cognitive processes into the unified experience of consciousness that you're currently having becomes particularly intriguing through this lens. Take a moment to notice the seamless integration of different elements in your current experience, the sounds around you, perhaps some background noise or music, the visual information your eyes are processing, the sensation of sitting or lying down, your thoughts about the ideas you're hearing, and the emotions responding to the content. All of these seemingly disparate streams of information are somehow woven together into a single, coherent experience of being you in this moment. This binding of information into a unified conscious experience represents one of the most profound puzzles in neuroscience. However, understanding the potential role of quantum coherence in this process, allowing different brain regions to synchronize their activity in ways that classical neural networks simply cannot fully explain, offers a tantalizing new avenue for exploration. It's not about definitively stating that quantum processes cause consciousness, but rather about recognizing that the dynamics of information processing within the brain might be shaped by principles that are fundamentally quantum in nature. The physicist John Wheeler famously proposed the phrase "it from bit," suggesting that physical phenomena might ultimately emerge from information processing rather than matter or energy. This idea, while speculative, has profound implications for our understanding of consciousness. If information is indeed fundamental to the universe, then consciousness, as the most sophisticated information processing system we know, might occupy a special place in the cosmic order. This doesn't imply that consciousness creates reality in any magical sense, but it suggests that the evolution of complex information processing systems, like brains, represents a fundamental trend in the universe's development. Researchers have begun exploring what they call the information integration theory of consciousness, which proposes that consciousness corresponds to integrated information in a system. According to this view, Any system that integrates information in sufficiently complex ways would have some form of conscious experience. This consciousness might be very different from human awareness. But this theory, while debated, offers a potential bridge between the subjective nature of consciousness and the objective measurements of information processing. It suggests that consciousness isn't an all-or-nothing property, but rather exists on a spectrum, with different systems exhibiting different degrees and qualities of conscious experience based on their information integration capabilities. As you contemplate this possibility, consider how it might change your relationship to the world around you. If consciousness emerges from information integration, then perhaps other complex systems, from ecosystems to social networks to the global internet, might possess their own forms of awareness. This remains highly speculative, but it points toward a universe that might be far more conscious than we typically imagine. The practical implications of these quantum-inspired approaches to consciousness are beginning to emerge in the field of contemplative neuroscience. Researchers are investigating how traditional meditation practices might optimize the coherence and integration of information processing in the brain, potentially leading to enhanced well-being and expanded awareness. Studies have found that experienced meditators show increased synchronization between different brain regions, suggesting that contemplative practices might enhance the kind of neural coherence that some researchers associate with optimal consciousness. It's important to note that this doesn't mean meditation creates quantum effects, but rather that the principles of coherence and integration that govern quantum systems might provide useful metaphors for understanding how to optimize consciousness for peak performance and well-being. The HeartMath Institute's coherence techniques, which we touched on earlier, represent one scientifically validated approach to creating more coherent patterns in psychophysiological processes. By synchronizing breathing, heart rhythm, and emotional states, practitioners can create what researchers call psychophysiological coherence, a state associated with improved cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and overall well-being. From a quantum-inspired perspective, this coherence might be understood as creating more integrated and harmonious information processing throughout the mind-body system. Some practitioners are developing techniques specifically designed to cultivate this state of coherence. The quantum concept of superposition, where particles exist in multiple states simultaneously, has inspired new approaches to creativity and problem-solving. Some practitioners suggest that by learning to hold multiple possibilities in awareness, without immediately collapsing into a single solution, you might access more creative and innovative responses to challenges. It's a technique for cultivating cognitive superposition, the ability to maintain awareness of multiple perspectives, possibilities, or solutions simultaneously, rather than immediately judging ideas as good or bad, right or wrong. As you consider a current challenge or question in your life, experiment with this approach. It's about allowing yourself to hold multiple possibilities simultaneously, noticing how this feels different from your normal problem-solving approach. Finally, it's crucial to recognize that quantum entanglement, the phenomenon where two or more particles become linked in such a way that they share the same fate, no matter how far apart they are, has also inspired explorations of what some researchers call consciousness entanglement, the possibility that groups of people engaged in synchronized activities might exhibit collective information processing capabilities that transcend individual cognitive limitations. Studies of group meditation have found correlations between the coherence of individual practitioners and various measures of social harmony in the surrounding community. While these findings remain controversial and require further investigation, some interpretations suggest that consciousness might have non-local properties analogous to quantum entanglement, allowing information to be shared between minds in ways we don't yet fully understand. As we prepare to explore the implications of these ideas for practical applications in daily life, take a breath and consider how this quantum perspective on consciousness might influence your understanding of your own awareness. You're not just a classical computer processing information according to predetermined algorithms. You're a quantum-inspired information processing system capable of coherence, superposition, and integration in ways that might connect you to the deepest principles governing reality itself. In our next section, we'll examine specific practices and techniques that draw inspiration from quantum principles to enhance consciousness and well-being. We'll explore how insights from quantum physics might inform approaches to creativity, problem-solving, and personal transformation. We'll also consider what these developments might mean for the future of human consciousness and our understanding of our place in the quantum universe. But for now, simply rest in the recognition that your consciousness represents one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the known universe. As you experience these thoughts and ideas arising in awareness, you're participating in the same fundamental processes that govern the behavior of quantum systems at the smallest scales of reality. You are both a product of the quantum universe and a conscious witness to its unfolding mystery. As we've explored, the potential implications of quantum physics for understanding consciousness are far-reaching, extending beyond abstract theoretical discussions. It's not about believing our brains literally operate like quantum computers, though that's a fascinating concept, but rather about recognizing that the principles underpinning the quantum world, coherence, superposition, entanglement, and non-locality, might offer powerful metaphors and potential pathways for optimizing our own experience. Let's delve deeper into how these concepts can be applied, not as rigid rules, but as frameworks for cultivating a richer, more integrated, and ultimately, more fulfilling existence. One of the most promising areas of exploration centers around coherence-based practices. Researchers, notably at the HeartMath Institute, have demonstrated that synchronizing physiological processes, specifically breathing, heart rhythm, and emotional states, creates a state they call psychophysiological coherence. This isn't simply about relaxation, it's about creating a state where information flows more smoothly and efficiently within the mind-body system. Think of it like tuning an instrument. When all the parts are harmonized, the sound is richer and more resonant. This coherence appears linked to improvements in cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and overall well-being. It's a tangible example of how aligning with a fundamental principle of the quantum world, coherence, can positively impact our lived experience. Consider this when you're caught in a spiral of anxiety or overwhelm. Often it feels like your thoughts and emotions are firing randomly, creating a chaotic feedback loop. A coherence-based approach suggests intentionally shifting that dynamic. It's about consciously bringing attention to the rhythm of your breath, noticing the gentle rise and fall of your chest, and allowing that sensation to anchor you in the present moment. By synchronizing your internal rhythms, you're essentially creating a more stable and integrated informational field within your system, mitigating the disruptive effects of scattered thoughts and heightened emotions. This isn't about controlling your emotions, it's about finding a point of equilibrium, a point of resonance. Now, let's turn to the concept of superposition. Quantum mechanics tells us that particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously until they're observed, until a measurement is made. This idea has profoundly influenced approaches to creativity and problem-solving. The challenge often lies in getting stuck, fixated on a single solution, unable to see alternative possibilities. Superposition suggests that we can intentionally cultivate a state of holding multiple possibilities in awareness without immediately collapsing into a single right answer. It's about suspending judgment, creating mental space, and allowing for the emergence of novel connections. Imagine you're faced with a complex challenge. Instead of immediately trying to force a solution, take a step back and consciously entertain multiple perspectives. Allow yourself to hold the different possibilities in your awareness, noticing how they interact, how they might combine. It's akin to a composer listening to multiple musical phrases before weaving them into a cohesive melody. The key is not to prematurely judge which one is best, but to embrace the potential for unexpected combinations. This practice, cultivating cognitive superposition, can unlock creative insights that might otherwise remain hidden. The concept of entanglement, often described as spooky action at a distance, further complicates our understanding of interconnectedness. While we don't believe our consciousness is directly entangled with others in a literal quantum sense, the principle that two particles can be instantaneously linked regardless of the distance separating them, suggests a deeper level of interconnectedness within the universe, and perhaps within ourselves. Researchers and practitioners are exploring ways to foster what they call consciousness entanglement, cultivating states of heightened empathy, compassion, and interpersonal connection. This isn't about telepathy, rather, it's about recognizing that our thoughts, emotions, and intentions create ripples that extend outwards, influencing the people and systems around us. It's about consciously contributing to a field of positive resonance. Consider how mindfulness practices, particularly deep meditation, often lead to profound experiences of connection not just with others, but with the natural world, with a sense of unity and belonging. These experiences resonate with the idea of non-locality, suggesting that awareness itself transcends the limitations of individual identity and temporal boundaries. The observer effect in quantum mechanics, the act of observing a quantum system fundamentally changes it, also offers valuable insights for self-awareness. Just as the act of observation influences the behavior of quantum particles, our attention and intention profoundly impact our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. This isn't about manipulating the universe, it's about recognizing the power of our own awareness and cultivating a more mindful relationship with ourselves and the world around us. When you observe your breath with focused attention, you don't just notice the sensation of air flowing in and out of your lungs, you're actively participating in a process that shapes that sensation. The quality of your breathing often naturally improves simply because you're paying attention to it. Similarly, when you observe your emotions with acceptance rather than resistance, they often become less intense and more workable. By simply acknowledging your thoughts without judgment, you can create space for them to pass through without becoming entrenched or compulsive. The quantum vacuum, that seemingly empty space that's actually teeming with potential energy, has inspired explorations of what some researchers call the creative vacuum of consciousness. This suggests that just as the quantum vacuum is a source of potential energy, our own minds may contain a similar vacuum of untapped potential. By creating periods of quiet stillness and open receptivity, by allowing ourselves to rest in states of not knowing, not thinking, and not trying, we can tap into this reservoir of creative energy. Many artists, scientists, and contemplatives have reported experiencing breakthrough insights during these moments of receptive stillness. The growing field of quantum biology reveals that living systems maintain quantum coherence through what physicists call decoherence-resistant mechanisms. These biological quantum effects, the ability of biological systems to maintain quantum coherence despite the noisy and chaotic environment of the warm, wet, and complex world, suggest that consciousness itself may possess similar mechanisms for maintaining stability and coherence in the face of external disturbances. This opens the possibility that certain contemplative practices might help us cultivate inner equanimity and clarity, even during challenging circumstances. Finally, consider the quantum measurement problem, the puzzle of how definite outcomes emerge from quantum possibilities. Researchers are exploring ways to apply this understanding to decision-making and manifestation practices. By holding intentions and goals in a superposition-like state without forcing specific outcomes, we might allow optimal solutions to emerge naturally through a process analogous to quantum measurement. It's about trusting the intelligence of the universe and allowing it to unfold in the way that's most beneficial for us. As you reflect on your own life, consider how these quantum-inspired principles might apply. It's not about becoming a physicist, it's about adopting a new perspective, one that recognizes the interconnectedness of all things, the fluidity of reality, and the potential for profound transformation that lies within each of us. Take a moment to experiment with these ideas, to explore the potential of coherence, superposition, entanglement, and non-locality in your own life. You might be surprised at the results. The hum of the laboratory felt strangely amplified, not just from the equipment, but from a growing sense of resonance. It wasn't a dramatic shift, not a sudden revelation, but a subtle deepening of awareness, like a slow bloom within the quiet spaces of my mind. As the researcher explained the latest findings regarding quantum non-locality, a thought drifted through me, unbidden, almost as if it were already known. It wasn't a logical deduction, not a step-by-step understanding, but a feeling of connection, a sense of participation in something vast and intricate. This, I realized, was a terrain where the familiar rules of cause and effect seemed to soften, where the boundaries between observer and observed blurred. The implications of the research, the potential for human consciousness to tap into those non-local properties, to access a field of interconnectedness beyond our everyday perception, felt profound. It wasn't about mastering quantum mechanics, not about becoming a physicist. It was about recognizing that the universe, at its deepest level, operates on principles that challenge our ingrained assumptions about reality. The physicist's quest for measurable, quantifiable data suddenly seemed inadequate, almost reductive, in the face of this deeper truth. He continued, describing the research into quantum tunneling, the phenomenon where particles can pass through seemingly impenetrable barriers. It was a metaphor, he explained, for the way we sometimes navigate the seemingly insurmountable obstacles in our own lives. Instead of forcing our way through, battling with resistance, perhaps we could learn to shift our perspective, to find alternative pathways, to allow for a gentle tunneling effect. The idea wasn't about bypassing limitations entirely, but about accessing a different kind of potential, a creative flow that transcends our conscious control. I found myself considering my own life, the moments when I felt utterly stuck, when the path forward seemed obscured by doubt and fear. Were there unseen barriers, not of brick and mortar, but of ingrained belief, of habitual patterns that were preventing me from moving forward? Could I, like a quantum particle, find a way to slip through, to access a hidden dimension of possibility? It wasn't about sheer willpower, it was about cultivating a deeper trust in the intelligence of the universe, about letting go of the need to control every outcome. The discussion then shifted to virtual particles, those fleeting manifestations of energy that constantly appear and disappear in the quantum vacuum. It was a concept that seemed to defy logic, yet it resonated with an intuitive sense of possibility. These virtual states, potentialities that weren't yet realized, suggested that reality wasn't fixed, not a solid, predetermined structure, but a fluid, dynamic field of potential. It was a reminder that the universe was teeming with unrealized possibilities, waiting to be activated by attention and intention. I recalled a particular moment, a creative block that had stalled a long-term project. I'd been so focused on achieving a specific outcome that I'd become paralyzed by self-doubt. It was as if a barrier had been erected in my mind, blocking the flow of inspiration. Later, reflecting on the research, I realized that perhaps that barrier wasn't a logical one, but a subconscious resistance to the inherent uncertainty of the creative process. The researcher continued to weave in concepts from quantum information theory, exploring the possibility that consciousness might operate according to fundamentally different principles than classical computation. The idea that human minds could process information in ways that transcend algorithmic logic, that we could access intuitive insights and creative solutions that defy rational explanation, was exhilarating. It wasn't about replacing logic with intuition, but about recognizing that both were ultimately manifestations of the same underlying process. He spoke about the emerging field of collective coherence, describing experiments conducted by organizations like the Global Coherence Initiative, which had documented correlations between large-scale human events and variations in the Earth's electromagnetic field. While the findings were preliminary, the possibility that human consciousness could influence physical systems, that shared intention and focused attention could subtly shift the energetic landscape of the planet, was profoundly humbling. It sparked a sense of interconnectedness, a feeling of being part of something larger than myself. The research then ventured into the more speculative territory of extended mind phenomena, exploring the possibility that cognitive processes might sometimes involve resources that exist outside the boundaries of individual brains, including tools, environments, and potentially other minds. I considered my reliance on my smartphone, a device that effectively extends my memory and processing capabilities. It wasn't about relying on technology, but about recognizing that our minds are inherently networked, that we are constantly exchanging information with our surroundings. He presented some findings regarding morphic resonance, a controversial concept proposed by biologist Rupert Sheldrake, suggesting that patterns of activity might create invisible fields that influence similar patterns across space and time. While I didn't fully embrace the scientific rigor of the idea, I found myself intrigued by the possibility that shared experiences could leave an imprint on the universe, that our collective intentions could subtly shape the reality around us. As the session drew to a close, a profound sense of recognition settled over me. It wasn't a sudden epiphany, but a deepening of awareness, a quiet understanding that the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than I had ever imagined. It wasn't about mastering a set of scientific principles, but about adopting a new perspective, one that embraced the inherent uncertainty of reality, one that recognized the potential for human consciousness to tap into the deepest mysteries of the universe. The research offered a framework for understanding the human experience, not as a series of isolated events, but as a dynamic interplay between mind, body, and environment. I left the laboratory with a sense of quiet excitement, a renewed sense of curiosity, and a profound appreciation for the interconnectedness of all things. The concepts were complex, the research ongoing, but the underlying message was clear: the universe is not something out there to be understood and controlled, but something in here, something to be experienced, to be embraced, to be lived with a sense of awe and wonder. It was a reminder that the most profound transformations occur not through forceful action, but through subtle shifts in perspective, through a willingness to let go of control and to trust in the intelligence of the universe. Perhaps I realized the journey itself, the exploration of these complex ideas, was the most valuable outcome of all. As I stepped back out into the bustling city, I felt a subtle shift within me. The world seemed brighter, more vibrant, more full of potential. It was as if I had unlocked a hidden channel of awareness, a connection to a deeper, more interconnected reality. And I knew, with a quiet certainty, that this was just the beginning of a lifelong journey of exploration and discovery. The laboratory felt strangely quiet, a stillness that wasn't born of emptiness, but of profound observation. I'd spent weeks immersed in the research of biologist Rupert Sheldrake, delving into his radical, yet undeniably compelling, hypothesis. It remained unproven, largely dismissed by the mainstream scientific community, but the core idea resonated with an intensity that felt deeply, fundamentally true. Sheldrake proposed that patterns of activity, not just within biological systems, but across all of nature, might create invisible fields that influenced similar patterns across space and time. This wasn't a theory of direct, measurable interaction, but a suggestion of a deeper interconnectedness that seemed to echo in the very fabric of existence. The research, focused on the concept of morphic resonance, implied that structures and behaviors weren't solely determined by local conditions, but were influenced by the accumulated experiences of similar systems across vast distances. It was a concept that challenged the rigid boundaries of causality, hinting at a more fluid, responsive universe. This wasn't simply theoretical abstraction, it mirrored something I had personally experienced, something that many people report in their daily lives. It noticed how certain ideas seemed to emerge simultaneously in different places, as if they were somehow connected through invisible channels of influence. It wasn't about intentional communication, it was about the feeling of resonance, of shared understanding unfolding spontaneously. And I'd also observed how skills that felt impossible to learn suddenly became accessible after watching someone demonstrate them with mastery. The feeling wasn't based on instruction, but on a subtle shift in my own perspective, a willingness to let go of the internal barriers I'd constructed. While neuroscience offered explanations for these phenomena, parallel thinking, mirror neuron activation, they felt insufficient, like describing the beauty of a sunset with only the terms of atmospheric physics. The Sheldrake hypothesis offered a different framework, suggesting that these experiences reflected deeper patterns of information sharing, patterns that we don't yet fully understand. The field of consciousness research was beginning to investigate what some scientists called collective coherence phenomena. The idea was that large-scale human events, a concert, a religious service, even a moment of shared silence, could generate a resonant field of awareness, a kind of information amplification. It wasn't about telepathy in the traditional sense, but about the potential for shared attention and emotional resonance to create a field of influence. This concept was compelling, especially considering the documented correlations between large-scale human events and subtle variations in the Earth's electromagnetic field. Organizations like the Global Coherence Initiative had meticulously documented these changes, observing fluctuations in electromagnetic patterns during moments of shared focus or intense emotional resonance, such as during collective meditation events or significant global occurrences. These correlations weren't proof of direct causation. It would be presumptuous to claim that human consciousness directly influenced planetary electromagnetic fields, but they raised profoundly intriguing questions about the interconnected nature of consciousness and physical systems. It suggested that our awareness might be far more potent and far-reaching than we typically acknowledge. As I stepped back out into the bustling city, the shift within me was palpable. The world seemed brighter, more vibrant, more full of potential. It was as if I had unlocked a hidden channel of awareness, a connection to a deeper, more interconnected reality. This wasn't a dramatic transformation, but a subtle recalibration, a reorientation of my senses. I found myself noticing details I'd previously missed, the way sunlight filtered through the buildings, the expressions on people's faces, the rhythm of the city. It felt as though I was seeing the world with fresh eyes, attuned to its underlying harmony. I realized with a quiet certainty that this was just the beginning of a lifelong journey of exploration and discovery. Then, I encountered the concept of extended mind phenomena, a term coined by researchers exploring the boundaries of consciousness. This theory, spearheaded by figures like David Bowie, suggested that consciousness might not be confined to the boundaries of individual brains. Instead, cognitive processes might sometimes involve resources that exist outside the skull tools, environments, and potentially even other minds. It wasn't about telepathy, but about the idea that our cognitive abilities are shaped by the complex web of relationships we inhabit. Consider how my smartphone has become an extension of my memory, storing information that I once carried in my biological memory systems. Or think about how my cognitive abilities change depending on my physical environment, social context, and available tools. Bow's work, focused on the idea of collective intelligence, proposed that when people engage in genuine dialogue without trying to convince each other or defend fixed positions, something remarkable can emerge: insights and solutions that seem to arise from the group as a whole rather than from any individual participant. This phenomenon, connected to Bow's understanding of quantum mechanics and the implication of non-local properties, suggests that consciousness might have collective dimensions that parallel the non-local properties discovered in quantum systems. While this remains a speculative interpretation, it points toward possibilities for human collaboration and problem-solving that transcend normal individual limitations. Research groups have begun investigating whether teams engaged in synchronized contemplative practices might exhibit enhanced collective problem-solving capabilities, creating coherent states of consciousness within individuals, and then synchronizing these states across group members. The field of contemplative neuroscience has made remarkable discoveries about the plasticity and trainability of consciousness itself. Long-term meditation practitioners show structural changes in brain regions associated with attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness, suggesting that consciousness can literally reshape the neural substrate that supports it. These findings provide scientific validation for claims that contemplatives have made for centuries, that awareness itself can be developed and refined through appropriate practices. And perhaps even more intriguing are studies showing that these consciousness-related brain changes might influence electromagnetic field patterns in ways that could potentially affect others nearby. Experienced contemplatives generate more coherent electromagnetic patterns that might unconsciously influence the physiological states of people in their vicinity. While preliminary and controversial, this research opens fascinating questions about the social and collective dimensions of consciousness development. Consider the intersection of consciousness research and environmental science with the proposed eco-consciousness hypothesis by James Lovelock. The idea that human consciousness might interact with natural systems in ways that go beyond conventional ecological relationships. While speculative, some preliminary studies have suggested correlations between human contemplative activities and changes in local environmental parameters, documented cases where sustained meditation practice in particular locations seem to correlate with improvements in air quality, water purity, or even crime rates in surrounding communities. These findings remain controversial and have not been consistently replicated, but they reflect a growing recognition that consciousness might not exist in isolation from the broader ecological systems within which it emerges. As I sat there, breathing air that has been processed by plants and other organisms, drinking water that has circulated through countless biological and geological systems, and eating food that connects me to soil organisms and photosynthetic processes, I realized how my consciousness emerged from and participated in these vast networks of interconnectedness. The field of quantum biology continues to reveal quantum effects operating within living systems under conditions that were once thought to make quantum coherence impossible. These discoveries suggest that life might have evolved sophisticated mechanisms for utilizing quantum properties to optimize biological processes, from energy transfer in photosynthesis to navigation in migratory animals. Perhaps most profoundly, the study of parapsychology, the investigation of psychic phenomena, has revealed that statistical anomalies might occur under carefully controlled laboratory conditions, offering a possible explanation for phenomena that were once considered impossible. The relationship between these investigations and quantum physics remains contentious, with some researchers proposing that quantum non-locality might provide mechanisms for psi phenomena, while others argue that quantum effects cannot account for the observed claims. It's clear that consciousness continues to exhibit properties that challenge our understanding and suggest capabilities we don't yet comprehend. Ultimately, exploring consciousness is not just a scientific endeavor, but a deeply personal one. It's a recognition that our perceptions, our thoughts, and our actions are not isolated events, but part of a larger, interconnected web of reality. It's about cultivating a sense of awe and wonder, a willingness to embrace the unknown, and a deep appreciation for the profound mystery of existence. The investigation of consciousness itself represents one of the greatest challenges facing modern science, requiring innovative approaches bridging first-person experience and third-person measurement. The echoes of our exploration linger, don't they? As the quiet settles around us, I want to hold on to the sense of wonder, the gentle acknowledgement that we've brushed against something profoundly complex, the very nature of consciousness. It's tempting, I think, to distill these ideas into neat, digestible packages, to pin them down with scientific certainty. But the truth is, we've encountered a frontier where certainty itself seems to dissolve. We've glimpsed patterns, observed anomalies, and encountered concepts like quantum non-locality and the potential for coherent emotional states that defy our everyday intuitions. And that's not a failure of science, it's the very heart of its power. Let's return to the thought of savant syndrome. These individuals, with their extraordinary abilities confined to specific domains, present a fascinating challenge to our understanding of cognitive limitations. The ability to perform complex mathematical calculations instantaneously, to memorize vast amounts of information after single exposures, to create detailed artistic representations with photographic accuracy. It suggests a capacity for information processing that isn't necessarily inhibited or inaccessible under normal circumstances. Perhaps, as some researchers have theorized, these abilities are unlocked when the brain's electromagnetic field, its subtle, fluctuating energy signature, achieves a state of coherence. This isn't about simply having a larger brain, it's about the quality of its activity, a resonance with the underlying quantum fabric of reality. And then there's the persistent, and admittedly controversial, investigation of psychic phenomena. For over a century, people have sought evidence of telepathy, clairvoyance, and precognition. While mainstream science has largely remained skeptical, the fact that statistical anomalized events that defy probabilistic explanation have been observed under carefully controlled laboratory conditions cannot be easily dismissed. It's a reminder that our current models of reality may be incomplete, that there are aspects of existence that lie beyond our current ability to measure and comprehend. The persistent allure of these claims stems not from a belief in magic, but from a deep-seated human intuition that there's more to reality than meets the eye. The relationship between these investigations and quantum physics is particularly intriguing. Quantum mechanics, at its core, posits that reality is not fixed and deterministic, but rather probabilistic and interconnected. Particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, and seemingly distant objects can be instantaneously linked through quantum entanglement. Could these phenomena on locality, wave-particle duality provide a framework for understanding psychic abilities? It's a leap of faith, certainly, but one supported by the growing recognition that consciousness itself may be fundamentally quantum in nature. Consider the implications of this. If consciousness isn't simply a product of neuronal activity complex, hierarchical system operating within a physical brain but rather a fundamental aspect of reality, then it may interact with the universe in ways we haven't yet begun to understand. It's a humbling thought, isn't it? It challenges our anthropocentric view of the cosmos, suggesting that we're not simply observers, but active participants in the ongoing evolution of reality. The investigation of consciousness itself represents one of the greatest challenges facing modern science, demanding innovative approaches that bridge the gap between first-person experience and third-person measurement. How do you study something that is inherently subjective in experiencer from an objective perspective? The very act of observation seems to influence the phenomenon you're trying to study. This creates unique methodological challenges, requiring researchers to develop new tools and techniques for exploring the inner landscape of awareness. Contemplative research traditions, spanning thousands of years, have developed sophisticated methods for investigating consciousness from the inside. Practices like meditation, mindfulness, and prayer, once dismissed as mere superstition, are now being recognized as valuable sources of data. These practices, which involve cultivating focused attention and exploring the nature of experience, have generated detailed maps of consciousness that are now being validated and extended through modern neuroscience research. The integration of contemplative and scientific approaches is proving to be one of the most promising developments in this field. Let's examine the concept of presence, that elusive state of being fully engaged in the moment, free from distraction and judgment. Traditionally, presence has been understood as a psychological state, a skill that can be cultivated through training and practice. But what if it's something more, a fundamental aspect of consciousness that's connected to the quantum realm? Emerging research suggests that coherent emotional states characterized by feelings of genuine appreciation, compassion, or contentment can trigger measurable changes in the brain's electromagnetic field. This, in turn, may influence the BOF fields of those around us. The Global Coherence Initiative, for example, has documented correlations between large-scale group meditation events and temporary changes in electromagnetic monitoring stations around the world. While the exact mechanisms involved remain unclear, these findings suggest that collective consciousness may be more than just a metaphor that, when multiple individuals cultivate coherent states of consciousness simultaneously, something measurable might occur that transcends individual contributions. Now, I want to emphasize that this doesn't imply that we can control or manipulate other people through our BOF fields. It's likely that any effects would be subtle and difficult to detect. However, it does suggest that our inner states, our emotions, our intentions can have a ripple effect on the surrounding environment, influencing the collective atmosphere in ways we haven't previously considered. As you reflect on your own experiences of deep presence, whether in conversation, in nature, or during moments of quiet contemplation, notice how these states feel qualitatively different from ordinary scattered awareness. Some practitioners report that cultivating coherent presence feels like tuning into a deeper frequency of being, one that seems to resonate with something larger than individual consciousness. And here's the key: you don't need to believe in any particular theory, quantum mechanics, consciousness field interactions, or anything else to benefit from these practices. Simply paying closer attention to the quality of your own awareness, cultivating feelings of genuine appreciation, compassion, or contentment can have a profound effect on your well-being and your relationships with others. As we've journeyed through these explorations, consider the implications of this expanded understanding. It suggests that you are not merely a collection of thoughts and sensations contained within the boundaries of your physical body, but a dynamic pattern of consciousness participating in the larger symphony of awareness that some say underlies all existence. The scientific understanding of these phenomena continues to evolve rapidly, with new discoveries regularly expanding our sense of what consciousness might be and what it might be capable of. What remains constant is the recognition that consciousness represents one of the deepest mysteries in existence, one that might require entirely new ways of thinking to fully comprehend. And perhaps most importantly, remember that the journey itself has value. It expands our appreciation for the profound mystery of conscious existence and motivates us to develop our own awareness in service of wisdom and compassion. As you prepare to rest or continue with your day, carry with you this expanded sense of your own nature and possibilities. You are not merely a collection of thoughts and sensations contained within the boundaries of your physical body, but a dynamic pattern of consciousness participating in the larger symphony of awareness that some say underlies all existence. The electromagnetic field of your heart continues to pulse outward as we conclude our exploration, carrying information about your emotional state into the space around you, potentially influencing the both fields of others in ways both subtle and profound. Take a breath. Allow yourself to settle into this moment of reflection. You have opportunities to explore and develop consciousness in ways that might surprise and delight you. Remember that this exploration is ultimately about enhancing your capacity to live with greater wisdom, compassion, and effectiveness in the world. The insights we've shared aren't valuable because they're scientifically fashionable or philosophically sophisticated, but because they might offer practical tools for developing qualities that serve both your own flourishing and that of the broader community of life. As the boundaries between science and spirituality, between individual and collective, between mind and matter continue to dissolve in the light of new discoveries, we find ourselves living in an unprecedented time of opportunity for consciousness development. The ancient dream of understanding the relationship between awareness and reality is beginning to find expression through the sophisticated instruments and theories of modern science, while never losing touch with the wisdom traditions that have explored these territories for millennia. This convergence doesn't diminish the mystery of consciousness, but reveals it to be even more profound and wonderful than we previously imagined. You are living in a universe where consciousness and quantum mechanics dance together in ways we're only beginning to understand, where your emotional states create measurable changes in electromagnetic fields, and where the quality of your attention might influence reality in subtle but significant ways. Rest in this recognition with both appropriate humility and genuine wonder. You are a conscious being contemplating the nature of consciousness itself, using awareness to investigate awareness, participating in the universe's attempt to understand itself through the miracle of your own reflective capacity. The air hummed with a quiet intensity, a resonance that seemed to vibrate not just within my own awareness, but in the very spaces around me. It's a feeling I've come to recognize the subtle shift that occurs when attention deepens, when a genuine openness settles into the heart of my being. As I considered the immense scope of what we're beginning to understand about consciousness, it felt less like a scientific puzzle to be solved, and more like a profound invitation to participate in a universe of unimaginable wonder. The convergence of ancient wisdom and modern inquiry, the dance between the ethereal and the measurable, revealed a reality far richer and more complex than I had ever imagined. It's a humbling realization to recognize that I am not merely an observer, but a co-creator of this unfolding experience. The questions that emerged weren't about control, but about connection. If consciousness, at its most fundamental level, operates through intricate networks of information exchange, influenced by electromagnetic fields and quantum processes, what does that truly mean for how I navigate the world? The practical implications, once considered, shifted from seeking to manipulate reality to cultivating a deeper, more harmonious relationship with it. It's about recognizing that my emotional state isn't simply a personal phenomenon, but a signal of vibration that subtly shapes the energetic landscape I inhabit, and potentially the experiences of those around me. This isn't a new concept, of course. Ancient contemplative traditions have long emphasized the power of presence, recognizing that the quality of our attention profoundly affects not just our inner world, but our interactions with the external one. Now, scientific research, particularly the work of the HeartMath Institute, is providing a framework for understanding why this is so. Their research illuminates the astonishing fact that cultivating what they call coherent emotional states, feelings like genuine appreciation, compassion, or contentment triggers measurable changes throughout our electromagnetic field. The heart's rhythm, in particular, becomes more ordered, creating smoother, more efficient patterns that seem to ripple outwards, influencing the coherence of other physiological systems. The interpretations of this research are intriguing and admittedly speculative. The possibility that these coherent patterns create more harmonious electromagnetic signatures, potentially influencing the fields of those nearby, raises questions about the nature of interaction. It doesn't suggest we can control others through our field, but it does suggest a subtle but significant contribution to the shared atmosphere, a resonance that goes beyond simple psychological interaction. When I reflect on experiences of deep presence, whether during a quiet conversation, immersed in the textures of nature, or lost in moments of mindful contemplation, I notice a qualitative difference. It's not just a state of calmness, but a feeling of tuning into a deeper frequency, a resonance that seems to connect me to something larger than my individual awareness. The notion of field effects of consciousness, explored by researchers like the Global Coherence Initiative, adds another layer to this understanding. Their studies, observing large-scale group meditation events, have documented correlations between synchronized group states and temporary changes in electromagnetic monitoring stations across the globe. Though these findings remain preliminary, and the causal relationships are far from established, they hint at the possibility of collective human experience transcending individual contributions. The very idea that a group's intention can have a measurable impact on the wider environment is transformative. It's crucial to acknowledge the inherent humility required when considering these findings. The precise mechanisms involved remain largely unknown, and interpretations may be influenced by conventional factors rather than direct consciousness field interactions. However, the underlying principle that synchronized states of consciousness can generate measurable effects opens up entirely new avenues of exploration. This perspective shifts our understanding of meditation itself. It moves beyond viewing it simply as a personal development technique for stress reduction, and towards recognizing it as a technology for exploring the fundamental nature of consciousness. It's about cultivating an awareness that is not just internally focused, but actively engaged with the larger web of awareness that some interpretations propose underlies all existence. Adding another dimension to this exploration is the intersection of consciousness research with ecological awareness. The possibility that human consciousness isn't confined to the boundaries of our nervous system, but is more intimately connected to natural systems than conventional science has acknowledged, is profoundly compelling. Researchers are beginning to explore whether consciousness might learn from the sophisticated information processing systems found throughout the natural world, from photosynthesis to the electromagnetic navigation systems used by migratory animals. The natural world seems to have evolved remarkable solutions for managing complex information under challenging conditions, and understanding these systems could offer valuable insights for optimizing human awareness and cognitive performance. This perspective also suggests a shift in our relationship with nature. It's not about imposing our will on the environment, but about recognizing our place within a vast, interconnected web of life. We are not separate from nature, but an expression of the same creative intelligence that manifests as forests, oceans, and the intricate ecosystems that sustain all life. Furthermore, the field of biomimicry, which studies natural systems to inspire human technologies, is beginning to explore whether consciousness itself might learn from these systems. The pursuit of coherence and efficiency, observed in natural systems, can offer new approaches to managing information and adapting to complex environments. The integration of these diverse perspectives, from quantum physics and neuroscience to ecology and contemplative traditions, holds the potential to unlock a deeper understanding of consciousness. It's not about creating a rigid, mechanistic model, but about embracing the inherent mystery and complexity of this fundamental phenomenon. As researchers continue to explore these avenues, it's likely that we will discover that consciousness is even more remarkable and interconnected than our current theories suggest. We are on the cusp of a paradigm shift, a recognition that our individual experience is inextricably linked to the broader universe. It's equally important to consider the implications of this understanding for the challenges facing humanity. If consciousness plays a more significant role in shaping reality, then cultivating qualities like wisdom, compassion, and emotional coherence becomes not just a personal endeavor, but a form of service to the larger community of life. This doesn't imply that individual consciousness can magically solve global problems. Rather, it suggests that by aligning our inner states with our intention to create a more harmonious world, we can contribute to a collective shift in awareness that has the potential to amplify positive change. Looking ahead, it's likely that we'll see the development of consciousness technology, devices, and platforms designed to enhance human cognitive and creative capabilities while maintaining the wisdom and ethical grounding that contemplative traditions have always emphasized. These might include devices that facilitate coherent emotional states, quantum-inspired meditation platforms, or environmental systems designed to support optimal states of consciousness. Ultimately, this journey of discovery invites us to participate in a profound and ongoing transformation, a shift in awareness that acknowledges the interconnectedness of all things. As we navigate this complex landscape, remember that the most important tool at our disposal is our own attention. By cultivating a deeper, more present awareness, we can contribute to the creation of a world that is both more sustainable and more compassionate. Taking a moment to simply be, to notice the subtle resonances of the universe, to recognize our connection to all things, is an act of profound possibility. As these diverse perspectives converge, we might discover that consciousness is even more remarkable and intricately interwoven than our current theories suggest. Researchers envision technological advancements, consciousness technology, that could enhance human cognitive and creative capabilities while simultaneously upholding the wisdom and ethical grounding championed by contemplative traditions for millennia. These might include biofield coherence devices, quantum-inspired meditation platforms, or environmental systems designed to foster optimal states of consciousness. Though such technologies remain largely speculative, the integration of consciousness research with education, healthcare, and social organization presents immediate opportunities for refining human well-being and collective intelligence, honoring both rigorous scientific inquiry and contemplative wisdom. As we deepen our understanding of how consciousness operates and how it can be optimized, we open pathways to addressing many of the challenges confronting human civilization. Take a moment to consider how your own consciousness development might contribute to these larger possibilities. Every time you cultivate greater awareness, emotional coherence, or compassionate presence, you're not only benefiting your own well-being, but potentially contributing to the collective intelligence and wisdom of the human species. While the mechanisms involved remain unclear, some interpretations suggest that individual consciousness development might have ripple effects, extending far beyond personal transformation. The recognition that consciousness might be more interconnected and influential than previously assumed carries with it both tremendous potential and profound responsibility. If your internal states genuinely contribute to the electromagnetic and informational environment experienced by others, then developing qualities like wisdom, compassion, and emotional coherence becomes not just a matter of personal growth, but a form of service to the broader community of life. This perspective doesn't impose unrealistic demands on individual consciousness, nor does it suggest that you're solely responsible for solving global issues through positive thinking. Instead, It acknowledges that consciousness development and social transformation might be intimately connected processes, mutually supporting and amplifying each other in ways we're only beginning to grasp. As you contemplate your role in this larger evolutionary process, remember that the most profound transformations often begin with simple practices accessible to anyone. Learning to breathe more coherently, appreciating the ordinary miracles of existence, or simply paying closer attention to the quality of your presence in daily interactions, these represent readily available pathways for participating in the ongoing evolution of human consciousness. The quantum perspective on consciousness ultimately points toward a universe far more alive, intelligent, and interconnected than classical science has portrayed. Instead of existing as isolated individuals within a mechanistic universe, you might be participating in a vast web of relationships where consciousness, electromagnetic fields, and quantum information processing dance together, creating the ongoing miracle of existence itself. This doesn't imply that reality is whatever you imagine it to be, or that consciousness controls physical processes in a direct sense. Rather, it suggests a more subtle and profound form of participation, where the quality of your awareness contributes to the larger symphony of consciousness that some interpretations propose underlies all phenomena. As our exploration draws to a gentle close, take a breath and allow yourself to feel both the wonder and the humility appropriate to this situation. As a conscious being contemplating the nature of consciousness itself, you are engaging in a process of investigation, a reflection on awareness, participating in the universe's attempt to understand itself through the remarkable phenomenon of reflective consciousness. The electromagnetic field of your heart continues to pulse outward, carrying information about your emotional state into the space around you. Quantum processes interpretations suggest continue their mysterious dance within the neural networks of your brain. The observer effect persists as your awareness touches each moment of experience, potentially influencing what you observe through the simple act of conscious attention. You exist at the intersection of electromagnetic fields and quantum possibilities, bridging ancient wisdom with cutting-edge science of individual awareness and collective consciousness. In understanding these connections, you begin to glimpse both your true nature and your potential role in the ongoing evolution of awareness itself. The practical approaches we've explored don't necessitate belief in any particular theory about consciousness or quantum mechanics, rather. They invite you to experiment with practices that might enhance the coherence, creativity, and compassion of your own experience through heart coherence techniques, quantum-inspired contemplative practices, or simply paying closer attention to the quality of your own awareness. You have opportunities to explore and develop consciousness in ways that might surprise and inspire you. Remember that this exploration is ultimately about enhancing your capacity to live with greater wisdom, kindness, and effectiveness in the world. The insights we've shared aren't valuable simply because they're scientifically fashionable or philosophically sophisticated. They might offer practical tools for developing qualities that serve both your own flourishing and that of the broader community of life. As the boundaries between science and spirituality, between individual and collective, between mind and matter continue to dissolve in the light of new discoveries, you find yourself living in an unprecedented time of opportunity for consciousness development. The ancient dream of understanding the relationship between awareness and reality is beginning to find expression through the sophisticated instruments and theories of modern science, while never losing touch with the wisdom traditions that have explored these territories for millennia. This convergence doesn't diminish the mystery of consciousness, but reveals it to be even more profound and wonderful than previously imagined. You are living in a universe where consciousness and quantum mechanics might dance together in ways we're only beginning to understand, where your emotional states create measurable changes in electromagnetic fields, and where the quality of your attention might participate in the ongoing creation of reality in subtle but significant ways. The implications of this electromagnetic perspective on consciousness extend into territories that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about personal identity and individual agency. As you rest here, absorbing these ideas like water soaking into soil, Consider how this understanding might transform your relationship to choice itself. Traditional models of decision-making assume that you exist as an isolated decision-maker, weighing options in the privacy of your individual mind before selecting the path forward. But what if this entire framework rests on an illusion of separateness that electromagnetic research is beginning to dissolve? What if the choices that feel most authentically yours actually emerge from a complex dance of field interactions that extend far beyond the boundaries of your skull? This doesn't mean you lack free will or personal responsibility, though it certainly complicates these concepts in fascinating ways. Instead, it suggests that your agency might operate through mechanisms far more sophisticated and interconnected than previously imagined. When you make a decision that feels perfectly aligned with your deepest values, something that resonates through your entire being with a sense of rightness, you might be experiencing the harmony that emerges when your individual bowfield aligns with larger patterns of coherence in the electromagnetic environment around you. Take a breath and notice the quality of awareness present as you consider these possibilities. Does this expanded view of choice feel liberating or unsettling? Many people report that understanding their interconnected nature initially feels destabilizing, as if the solid ground of individual identity is shifting beneath their feet. But this disorientation often gives way to a profound sense of relief, as the burden of being an isolated self struggling against an indifferent universe begins to dissolve into something more collaborative and supportive. Researchers call morphic resonance a speculative framework for understanding how information might propagate through invisible channels of influence. Rupert Sheldrake's basic proposal suggests that patterns of activity create invisible fields that make similar patterns more likely to occur elsewhere. Though this hypothesis lacks empirical support and remains controversial, many people report experiences that seem to involve accessing information or capabilities that feel larger than their individual knowledge base. Have you ever found yourself knowing something you couldn't possibly have learned through conventional means, or discovered abilities emerging in moments of crisis that surprised you with their sophistication and appropriateness? While these experiences could be explained through unconscious learning, pattern recognition, or intuitive synthesis of available information, some interpretations suggest they might reflect access to collective intelligence networks that operate through subtle electromagnetic or informational channels. Biomimicry reveals that nature utilizes information processing strategies of breathtaking elegance and efficiency. The murmuration of starlings creates complex aerial choreography involving thousands of individual birds, each following simple local rules while contributing to emergent behaviors that appear to demonstrate collective intelligence. No single bird controls the flock, yet the whole system responds to threats and opportunities with remarkable coordination and grace. Some researchers speculate that human consciousness might operate according to similar principles, with individual awareness participating in larger collective intelligence networks through mechanisms we don't yet understand. Entrainment, the synchronization of oscillating systems, has been documented across multiple scales of organization, from individual cells to social groups. When musicians play together, their brain waves begin to synchronize. When people engage in meaningful conversation, their heart rhythms often become coordinated. When groups meditate together, some studies suggest their individual bowfields may show increased coherence, though these findings remain preliminary and require further investigation. Morphic resonance, though largely unproven, offers a framework for understanding how information might propagate through invisible channels. Sheldrake's hypothesis proposes that patterns of activity create invisible fields that make similar patterns more likely to occur elsewhere. Whether or not such specific mechanisms exist, many people report experiences that seem to involve accessing information or capabilities that feel larger than their individual knowledge base. Have you ever found yourself knowing something you couldn't possibly have learned through conventional means, or discovered abilities emerging in moments of crisis that surprised you with their sophistication and appropriateness? The exploration of consciousness is ultimately about enhancing your capacity to live with greater wisdom, kindness, and effectiveness in the world. The insights we've shared aren't valuable simply because they're scientifically fashionable or philosophically sophisticated. They might offer practical tools for developing qualities that serve both your own flourishing and that of the broader community of life. As the boundaries between science and spirituality, between individual and collective, between mind and matter continue to dissolve in the light of new discoveries, you find yourself living in an unprecedented time of opportunity for consciousness development. The air around us isn't simply empty space, it vibrates with a subtle, unseen energy, a field woven from the very fabric of existence. This isn't a concept confined to the realms of abstract physics or spiritual speculation. It's a recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness, a gentle invitation to perceive ourselves not as isolated individuals, but as radiant nodes within a vast, dynamic network. Consider the simple act of breathing. Each inhale brings in air, yes, but also carries with it the echoes of countless other breaths, a shared rhythm connecting you to every living being on this planet, and perhaps beyond. The scientific explorations we've touched upon, the murmurs around morphic resonance, the patterns emerging across cultures and times. The intriguing correlations discovered by the Global Coherence Initiative offer a framework for understanding phenomena that often defy easy explanation. They suggest that information, once imprinted upon the universe, doesn't simply vanish. Instead, it persists, a lingering energy that can subtly influence what emerges afterward. Imagine a musician playing a beloved melody. The notes themselves may fade, but the resonance of that music continues to exist, capable of inspiring similar musical expressions in others, even those who have never heard the original piece. This isn't about claiming to wield conscious control over planetary systems. It's about acknowledging a deeper participation, a recognition that our individual consciousness isn't a separate entity, but an integral part of a larger, intelligent system. The research into entrainment, the synchronization of oscillating systems, from the rhythmic beating of cells to the coordinated movements of musicians, reveals a profound sensitivity to the surrounding environment. When you enter a concert hall, you don't just hear the music, you feel it, your own body subtly adjusting its rhythms in response. Similarly, places imbued with history, with moments of intense creativity or profound emotion, seem to hold a particular kind of energy, a resonance that can amplify our own experience. The idea of place-based consciousness, as explored by indigenous wisdom traditions and now, tentatively, by science, suggests that our awareness is inextricably linked to the geographical locations we inhabit. These aren't just physical spaces, they're repositories of accumulated experience, of the energetic imprints left by countless generations. The ancient understanding that certain landscapes possess unique energies, that a particular mountain, a specific grove of trees, or a sacred site holds a powerful influence, isn't simply folklore. It's a recognition of the subtle ways in which our environment shapes our thoughts, our feelings, and our perceptions. It's tempting to approach these ideas with a critical eye, to demand absolute proof, to insist on quantifiable data. But perhaps the very act of seeking definitive answers is part of the problem. The universe, as we're beginning to understand, operates on scales that defy our conventional ways of thinking. The quantum realm, with its concepts of superposition and entanglement, suggests that reality is far more fluid and interconnected than our everyday experience allows us to perceive. Consider the observer effect in quantum physics. The act of observing a particle can actually influence its behavior. It's a humbling reminder that we are not passive observers of the universe, we are active participants in shaping its reality. This doesn't imply a mystical power, but rather an acknowledgement of our deep entanglement with the underlying fabric of existence. The principles we've explored: coherence, mindful observation, electromagnetic awareness, aren't esoteric techniques reserved for a select few. They're tools for cultivating a richer, more meaningful experience of life. They're about learning to tune into the subtle rhythms of our own being and the world around us. It's about recognizing that our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, all ripple outwards, creating waves of influence that extend far beyond our immediate reach. Think about the simple act of spending time in nature. Studies have shown that exposure to green spaces reduces stress, improves mood, and enhances cognitive function. But it's not just about the physical benefits. It's about reconnecting with the Earth's natural rhythms, about feeling grounded and centered. This feeling of connection isn't magical, it's rooted in the biological reality that we evolved within these ecosystems, and that our bodies are inherently attuned to their patterns. The advancements in understanding consciousness research and environmental science have led to investigations of what some researchers call place-based consciousness, the possibility that human awareness might be more intimately connected to geographical locations than conventional psychology recognizes. Indigenous wisdom traditions have long understood that different places carry distinct energies or spirits that can profoundly influence human experience. And some preliminary scientific research has begun exploring whether these traditional insights might have measurable correlates. There is no need to be intimidated by these concepts. You don't need to master quantum physics to benefit from these insights. The core message is about cultivating awareness and recognizing our interconnectedness. It's about recognizing that we are part of something larger than ourselves and embracing the profound beauty and mystery of existence. As you move forward, carry with you the understanding that consciousness is not a localized phenomenon contained within the confines of your skull. Instead, recognize that your mind is an extension of the universal field of awareness. The subtle vibrations of your heart, the flow of your breath, the patterns of your thoughts all contribute to the ongoing symphony of existence. Throughout this exploration, we've touched upon the groundbreaking research surrounding artificial intelligence, the growing recognition that AI systems are beginning to decode the deepest patterns of information processing in the quantum realm. This isn't a battle between humans and machines, it's a collaboration, a chance for us to deepen our understanding of the universe's intelligence. And as we conclude this journey, let us not forget that the most remarkable phenomenon in the known universe might be consciousness itself, the capacity for experience, for awareness, for the unfolding of beauty and wonder. Take a moment to truly breathe, to feel the warmth of your own body, to appreciate the intricate dance of energy that sustains all life. You are a luminous point of awareness, a participant in the grand experiment of existence. Trust in your intuition, embrace the unknown, and allow yourself to be guided by the radiant intelligence that resides within you. The profound mystery of consciousness will remain a source of awe and inspiration, guiding you towards a life of greater meaning, purpose, and connection. Consider this: the energy that flows through you is not just something inside you. It's a current joining you to a vast and vibrant network, a testament to the universe's constant yearning to understand itself, reflected in the miracle of your own reflective awareness. And as you continue exploring these profound mysteries of consciousness and reality, you might find fascinating connections in our investigation of how artificial intelligence is beginning to decode the deepest patterns of information processing in the quantum password that AI wasn't supposed to decode. Ultimately, the journey itself, the willingness to explore, to question, to embrace the unknown, is the most valuable outcome. You don't need to arrive at a definitive answer, you simply need to remain open to the possibilities. Until we meet again in this quiet corner, where science and wonder converge, rest well in the knowledge that consciousness itself might be the most remarkable phenomenon in the known universe.